Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U.E.'s Pathfinder, staring at the massive mining station floating in the darkness ahead. The station was supposed to be alive with workers and machines, but now it looked like a dead thing drifting through space. No lights moved in its windows. No ships came and went from its docking bays. It had been silent for 3 months. "Take us in slow," Jake told his pilot. The ship moved closer to the station. Jake could see that the outside looked normal. Number. Damage. No holes in the metal walls. Whatever happened here, it happened from the inside. Dr. Lisa Gret looked up from her computer screen. She was the ship's science officer, and she had been studying the station's last messages for weeks. "Captain, I'm still not getting any life signs from inside, but the power is still on. Someone or something is keeping the lights running." Commander Rick Barnes checked his weapons one more time. He was in charge of keeping the crew safe, and he did not like what he was seeing. "This feels wrong, Captain. Stations don't just go quiet like this. Where did everyone go?" Engineer Amy Patterson was working on the docking computers. She was young but very good with machines. "Docking bay is opening for us, Captain." "There. Computers are working fine. Everything looks normal from the outside." Jake made his decision. "We dock and we go inside. But we stay together. No one goes anywhere alone." He looked at each of his crew members. The Colonial Authority needs to know what happened here. People don't just disappear from a mining station. The Pathfinder connected to the station with a soft bump. The airlock opened with a hiss, and Jake stepped through first. The air inside the station was cold and snowed like metal and old fear. Emergency lights cast long shadows down the empty hallways. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. "Power grid is stable," Amy said, checking a wall panel. "Life support is running. Heat, air, water. Everything a crew needs to live. So where is everyone?" They walked through corridors that should have been full of workers. The mining station was huge, built to house 500 people. It pulled valuable metals from the planet below and sent them back to Earth. It was an important place, worth a lot of money. Companies did not just abandon places like this. Lisa held up her scanner. "I'm getting some strange readings from the lower levels. There's something down there that doesn't match the station's original design." They found the first clue in the main control room. A coffee cup sat on a desk, still half full. Food was left on plates in the dining area. Beds were unmade. It looked like everyone had just walked away in the middle of their normal day. Rick found the security office and started checking the cameras. Most of them were broken or turned off, but a few still worked. "Captain, you need to see this." The screens showed empty hallways and dark rooms. But in one camera, something moved. A shadow that did not look quite right. "What was that?" Jake asked. "I don't know. The camera went dead right after I saw it." Amy found the station's main computer and started looking through the files. "Captain, there are personal logs from the crew. The last ones are from 3 months ago, right before they went silent." Jake nodded. "Play them." The first log was from mining supervisor Carl Johnson. His face appeared on the screen, and he looked excited. "Day 847 of mining operations. We found something incredible down in Shaft 7. It's not like anything in our geological surveys. There's a structure buried in the planet's core. It looks ancient, maybe millions of years old." The next log showed Carl looking more worried. "Day 850. We've cleared more dirt away from the structure. It's huge, much bigger than we first thought. The metal is not like anything we've seen before. It has patterns cut into it, like writing or symbols, and it's making a sound. A low humming that you can feel in your bones." Lisa leaned closer to the screen. "Those symbols. They look almost mathematical, like equations or formulas." The logs continued. Carl's excitement grew with each entry. Day 855. We found what looks like a door or entrance. The humming is getting louder. Some of the crew are having bad dreams, but I think we're on the edge of the greatest discovery in human history. Jake felt a cold fear growing in his stomach. Keep playing them. Day 860. Against company policy, we opened the door. Inside is a chamber made of some kind of crystal. The walls are covered in those symbols, and they're glowing now. The humming is so loud we need ear protection to get close. The final log showed Carl looking scared and tired. Day 863. Something's wrong. The crew that went into the chamber, they're acting strange. They say they can hear voices in their heads. And the symbols are getting brighter every day. I think we made a mistake. I think we should have left it buried. The screen went to static. Then came sounds that made Jake's blood run cold. Screaming. The sound of metal being torn apart. And underneath it all, something that did not sound human at all. It was a roar, but it had intelligence behind it. It was angry, and it was hungry. The recording ended in silence. Amy looked pale. Captain, according to the mining records, they dug down almost to the planet's core. Whatever they found, it's been buried for a very long time. Rick was checking his weapons again. And now it's not buried anymore. Lisa studied the symbols that had appeared in the logs. These patterns, I've seen something like them before. In very old archaeological sites on Earth. Symbols that we never figured out how to read. Jake stared at the empty control room. 500 people had worked on this station. Now they were gone, and something was loose on the planet below. Something that had been buried for a reason. We need to get down to the planet, he said. We need to see what they found. Rick shook his head. Captain, that's exactly what they did. Look how that worked out for them. But Jake was already making his decision. They had come here to find answers. The people of Earth needed to know what had happened. And deep in his gut, he knew that whatever was down there was not going to stay on this one planet. It was going to spread. We go down, he said, but we go prepared. And we stay in contact with the ship every minute. As they prepared to leave the station, none of them noticed the shadows moving in the corridors behind them, or the soft humming sound that had started coming from the planet below. The shuttle broke through the planet's atmosphere, with Jake at the controls. Below them, the mining site looked like a giant wound in the ground. Huge machines sat abandoned around a massive hole that went down so deep they could not see the bottom. The hole was not rough like most mining sites. It was smooth and perfectly round, like someone had used a giant drill. Look at the size of that thing, Amy said, staring out the window. They dug down almost 20 miles. What were they looking for? Lisa checked her instruments. The readings are getting stronger as we get closer. There's definitely something down there that does not belong. Rick loaded extra ammunition into his rifle. I don't like this, Captain. The whole place feels wrong. Jake landed the shuttle near the mining camp. The buildings were empty, but the lights were still on. Food sat rotting on tables. Work clothes hung on lines. It looked like everyone had just walked away in the middle of their day. They walked to the edge of the great hole. The sides were smooth and dark. Metal platforms and elevators had been built to carry miners down into the depths. At the very bottom, far below, they could see a faint blue light. That's not on any of the mining plans, Amy said, checking her tablet. That light source is not supposed to be there. Lisa held up her scanner. I'm reading massive energy signatures. From down there. Whatever is making that light, it's putting out more power than our ship's reactor. Jake made the decision. We go down, but we take it slow and careful. The elevator ride down took 20 minutes. As they went deeper, the blue light got brighter. The walls of the hole changed from normal rock to something that looked almost like glass. Strange symbols were carved into the walls, and they glowed with the same blue light. These symbols, Lisa said, running her hand over them. They're the same ones from the station logs, but there are thousands of them down here. Amy studied the carvings. They look like math, like equations or formulas, but the math is wrong. These numbers don't work with any system I know. At the bottom of the hole, they found the chamber that Carl Johnson had discovered. It was huge, bigger than a football field, and it was made entirely of crystal. The walls curved up and around them like they were standing inside a giant egg. The blue light came from the crystals themselves, but the chamber was broken now. A massive crack ran down one wall where the miners had forced their way inside. The crack was big enough for a person to walk through, and that was exactly what someone had done. Footprints led from the crack into the dark interior of the chamber. The miners went inside, Rick said, following the tracks. But I don't see any tracks coming back out. Jake led the way through the crack. Inside the chamber, the symbols covered every surface. The walls, the floor, the ceiling. All of them glowed with that strange blue light. And in the center of the chamber sat something that made them all stop and stare out. It was a machine, but not like any machine they had ever seen. It was made of the same crystal as the walls, but it moved and flowed like it was alive. Tubes and wires grew out of it like vines, connecting to panels covered in more symbols. And at the center of it all was a chair, built for something that was not quite human. What is that thing? Amy whispered. Lisa walked closer, her scanner beeping rapidly. It's a computer, but the technology is completely beyond anything we have. This is millions of years more advanced than our best systems. The machine was connected to the walls by thousands of crystal cables. As they watched, lights moved through the cables like blood through veins. The machine was alive, and it was thinking. Look at this, Rick called from the other side of the chamber. He was standing next to a wall covered in different symbols. These were not mathematical equations. They were pictures. Images of creatures that looked almost human, but not quite right. And images of other creatures that were definitely not human at all. The pictures told a story. The almost human creatures were running from something, fighting something. The other creatures were hunting them, consuming them, changing them into something else. The final pictures showed the almost human creatures building this chamber, sealing something inside. It's a prison, Jake realized. This whole chamber is a prison. They built it to keep something locked up. Lisa checked her readings again. But it's not locked up anymore. When the miners broke through, they let it out. Amy found the control panel for the machine. The symbols on it were different from the others. Newer. Captain, these symbols, they're not the same as the old ones. Someone has been using this machine recently. As she spoke, the machine began to change. The lights in the crystal cables moved faster. New symbols appeared on the walls. And from somewhere deep in the chamber came a sound like breathing. We need to get out of here, Rick said, raising his weapon. Right now, but it was too late. The crack they had come through was closing. The crystal walls were growing back together, sealing them inside. And the breathing sound was getting closer. It knows we're here, Lisa said, her voice shaking. The machine is connected to something, and it knows we're here. Jake tried to find another way out, but the chamber was solid crystal on all sides. They were trapped, and whatever had been sleeping in this prison for millions of years was waking up. The machine in the center of the chamber began to hum. The same humming sound that Carl Johnson had described in his logs. But now it was louder, and it was coming from everywhere at once. The symbols on the walls pulsed in rhythm with the humming. Amy studied the control panel desperately. I think I can figure out how to work this. The symbols are starting to make sense. It's like the machine is teaching me. Don't touch anything, Jake ordered. We don't know what this thing does. But Amy was already reaching for the controls. Captain, I think this machine is trying to communicate. It's showing me images. Pictures of Earth. Pictures of our cities. It knows about us. The breathing sound was right behind them now. Jake turned around and saw something that made his blood freeze. Standing in the shadows was one of the missing miners. But he was not the same man who had gone down into the chamber 3 months ago. His skin was pale and stretched tight over. Bones that were too long. His eyes glowed with the same blue light as the crystals. And when he opened his mouth to speak, his voice was not his own. You should not have come here, the thing that had been a miner said. But now that you are here, you will help us learn about your people. You will help us prepare for what comes next. Jake raised his weapon, but he knew it was useless. They were trapped in a crystal prison with something that had been waiting millions of years for someone to set it free. And now it was awake, and it was hungry. Rick fired his weapon at the thing that had been a miner. The bullets passed right through it, like it was made of smoke. The creature smiled with too many teeth and took a step closer. Your weapons cannot hurt us now, it said in a voice that belonged to someone else. We are beyond your simple understanding of life and death. More shapes moved in the shadows around the chamber. Other miners, all changed into something that was no longer human. They walked wrong, like their bones had been broken and put back together in the wrong places. Their eyes glowed with the same blue light as the crystals. Jake grabbed Amy's arm. Can you get us out of here? Amy was still working on the crystal control panel. I'm trying, Captain. The machine is showing me things. Images of what happened here. This thing, whatever it is, it's not from our world. It came from somewhere else, somewhere far away. Lisa backed against the wall, her scanner beeping frantically. The energy readings are off the charts. Whatever this entity is, it's growing stronger every second. The creature that had been a miner tilted its head, like it was listening to something they could not hear. Our kind has traveled between the stars for millions of years. We consume worlds, learn from them, and move on to the next. Your people are young, but you will teach us much. Jake kept his weapon pointed at the creature, even though he knew it was useless. What did you do to the miners? We improved them. They are part of us now. Their knowledge, their memories, their skills. All of it serves our purpose. The creature gestured to the others. Soon you will join them. Soon you will understand. Amy's hands moved over the crystal controls. Captain, I'm seeing the history of this place. The beings who built this prison, they looked almost human. But they lived here millions of years ago, before humans even existed on Earth. The machine in the center of the chamber began to pulse faster. New symbols appeared on the walls, and Jake realized they were not random. They were plans, blueprints for something massive. What is it building? He asked. Lisa studied the symbols with her scanner. It's a transmitter, a beacon. It's using the planet's mineral resources to construct something that can send signals across the galaxy. The creature laughed, and the sound echoed off the crystal walls. Your people have spread across many worlds. We have learned this from the minds of these miners. Soon our beacon will call to others of our kind. They will come, and your species will feed us for centuries. Rick tried to find another way out of the chamber, but the crystal walls had sealed completely. We're trapped in here while that thing calls for backup. Amy suddenly straightened up from the control panel. Wait, I'm seeing something else. The people who built this prison, they left instructions, a way to stop this thing. But the instructions are incomplete, like they were waiting for someone else to finish them. The creature moved closer, and Jake could smell something wrong about it. Like metal and electricity and death all mixed together. You will not stop anything. You will become part of us, and your knowledge will help us understand human technology. But Amy was not listening. She was reading the symbols on the walls, and her eyes were getting wider. Captain, these instructions, they're not just written in the crystal. They're written in DNA, human DNA. Lisa looked up from her scanner. That's impossible. Humans didn't exist when this prison was built. No, but the people who built it knew we would exist someday. They left the instructions in our genetic code. Some humans carry the activation sequence for a weapon that can destroy this entity. The creature suddenly looked worried. That cannot be. The builders are long dead. Their weapon died with them. Amy ran her hands over more control panels. The builders weren't just any people. They were our ancestors. Human ancestors from millions of years ago. They were part of the civilization that fought this entity before. And they built this prison. Not just to contain it, but to test us. Jake started to understand. A test to see if we were ready. Ready for what? Rick asked. Amy looked at the final set of symbols. Ready to take their place as protectors of the galaxy. This entity has been consuming worlds for millions of years. But every time it does, the survivors get stronger. Eventually, one species becomes strong enough to stop it permanently. The creature roared and lunged at Amy, but she was faster. Her hands found the right symbols on the control panel, and suddenly the chamber filled with brilliant white light. I carry the genetic code, Amy said, her voice echoing strangely. The builders left it in certain human bloodlines. I can activate their weapon. The crystal walls began to crack. But instead of breaking apart, they were reshaping themselves. The chamber was transforming into something else. Something that hummed with deadly energy. The creature and its transformed miners screamed as the white light touched them. You do not understand what you are doing. If you activate that weapon, it will destroy everything. Your planet, your people, everything. Amy looked at Jake with tears in her eyes. Captain, the weapon won't just destroy the entity. It will create a dimensional rift that tears apart everything within 100 light years, including Earth. Jake felt his heart stop. There has to be another way. There is, Amy said quietly. The weapon can be focused. Instead of destroying everything, it can be aimed at just the entity and its kind. But someone has to stay here. To control it, someone has to guide the beam. Rick understood first. You're talking about a suicide mission. Amy nodded. The builders designed it that way. The ultimate test. Are we willing to sacrifice one life to save everyone else? The creature was getting weaker as the white light grew stronger, but it was still fighting. You fools! You think you are the first to try this? We have destroyed 1,000 worlds, 1,000 civilizations. You are nothing special. But Amy was already making her choice. She placed both hands on the final control panel. Actually, we are special. We're the ones who are going to stop you. The chamber began to shake as ancient machinery came to life. Somewhere above them, Jake could hear the sound of the planet's surface cracking open. The weapon was bigger than just the chamber. It was the entire planet. Amy, don't do this, Jake said. We'll find another way. Amy smiled at him. Captain, get your crew back to the ship. Get as far away from here as you can. And when you get back to Earth, tell them what happened here. Tell them that humanity passed the test. The white light was so bright now that Jake could barely see. The creature and its miners were dissolving like smoke in the wind. And Amy was standing in the center of it all, her hands on the controls that would save the galaxy. Jake grabbed Rick and Lisa and ran for the crack in the chamber wall. But the crack was closing fast as the ancient weapon came to life. The white light was so bright it hurt to look at, and the sound of the planet breaking apart thundered around. Them! Amy! Jake shouted over the noise. "Come with us." But Amy shook her head. She had to keep her hands on the control panel, or the weapon would destroy everything instead of just the entity. "Go, Captain. Get to your ship. You have maybe 10 minutes before this whole planet comes apart." The crystal walls were melting, now turning into liquid light that flowed upward toward the surface. Jake could see that the weapon was not just in the chamber. It was built into the entire planet. The whole world was one giant machine designed to destroy things like the entity. Rick pulled Jake toward the crack. "Captain, we have to go now." They squeezed through the opening just as it sealed shut behind them. The elevator was still working, but barely. As they rode up toward the surface, they could feel the planet shaking itself apart beneath their feet. "What about Amy?" Lisa asked, tears in her eyes. Jake watched the numbers on the elevator display. "She's saving all of us. She's saving everyone." When they reached the surface, the mining camp was already falling into the ground. Huge cracks split the earth in all directions. Far below, that white light was getting brighter, turning the bottom of the great hole into a star. They ran to their shuttle as rocks and metal fell from the sky. Jake started the engines while Rick and Lisa strapped themselves in. The shuttle lifted off just as the ground where they had been standing collapsed into nothing. "Get us back to the ship," Rick said. "Fast." Jake pushed the engines to their limit. Behind them, the planet was tearing itself apart. The white light was breaking through the surface now, shooting up into space like a giant laser beam. But it was not destroying everything like the entity had said it would. The weapon was focused, aimed at something they could not see. On the ship, Lisa ran to the science station. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy discharges across multiple dimensions. The weapon is not just destroying the entity on this planet. It's tracking down every piece of it across space and time." Jake watched the planet die through the main view screen. Amy knew what she was doing. The weapon is following the entity back to wherever it came from. The white light suddenly changed. Color turning from white to gold to something beyond what human eyes could see. And then, for just a moment, they could hear Amy's voice speaking through the ship's communications. "It's working, Captain. The weapon found them all. Every piece of the entity, everywhere it has ever been. It's destroying the whole species across the galaxy." Rick leaned over the comm system. "Amy, can you get out of there? Can you shut down the weapon and escape?" Amy's voice was getting weaker. "No, Commander. Someone has to guide it to the end. Someone has to make sure it finds every last piece. But it's okay. I can see what the builders left for us. Instructions, star charts, the locations of other worlds that need our help." Lisa was crying now. "Amy, you don't have to do this alone." "I'm not alone," Amy said. "The builders are here with me. All of them. Every species that ever fought this entity and won. We're all connected now. And Captain, you need to know something." This was not the only test. Jake felt cold fear in his stomach. "What do you mean?" "There are other buried sites, other prisons, scattered across human space. Each one contains a different kind of threat. The builders left them for us to find when we were ready. Earth is not just another world anymore, Captain. We're the new guardians of the galaxy." The planet was almost gone now, consumed by its own weapon. But the white light was spreading outward, reaching across space to touch other stars. Wherever the entity had spread, the weapon was finding it and destroying it. "Amy, what happens now?" Jake asked. Amy's voice was very faint now. "Now you go home. You tell Earth what happened here. You tell them that humanity has graduated. We're not just explorers anymore. We're protectors. And there are others out there, other species that have been waiting for us to pass the test." The COMM system crackled with static. "Captain, I can see them. Ships from a dozen different worlds, all heading toward Earth. They've been watching us, waiting to see if we're ready to join them. The weapon's activation was a signal. It told the whole galaxy that humanity is ready to take its place. Rick was monitoring the long-range sensors. Captain, he's right. I'm detecting multiple ships approaching Earth from different directions. They're not human designs. Jake realized that everything was about to change. Humanity had been alone in the galaxy, or so they thought. But they had never been alone. Other species had been waiting, watching, hoping that humans would be strong enough to pass the test that the builders had left for them. Amy, Jake said into the comm, thank you. Tell my family that I died doing something important, Amy said. Tell them that I helped save the galaxy. The white light flashed one final time, and then the planet was gone. In its place was empty space and a small cloud of golden dust. The weapon had consumed itself along with its target, leaving nothing behind except the memory of what had happened. Jake set course for Earth. The journey home would take weeks, but when they arrived, they would find a different world. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. They had proven themselves worthy of joining the galactic community, but they had also inherited a great responsibility. Lisa was already working on the report they would have to give to the colonial authority. How do we explain this? How do we tell Earth that we're now responsible for protecting other worlds? Jake looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, other species were traveling toward Earth. Some would be allies, others might be threats. But humanity would be ready for them, because Amy Patterson had made the ultimate sacrifice to ensure their survival. We tell them the truth, Jake said. We tell them that we passed the test. And we tell them that the real work is just beginning. In the golden dust that had once been a planet, something flickered for just a moment. Amy's voice, one last time, carrying a cross. Space to reach Earth before them. Humanity is ready, she said. The galaxy is safe. And the next chapter begins now.